Filipinos have the benefit of eyes to preserve the integrity of the electoral process, and that is through the so-called election watchdog. The Omnibus Election Code has authorized the Commission on Elections to enlist non-partisan groups or organizations from the civic, youth, professional, educational, business, or labor sectors to assist the Commission in educating voters and to ensure a clean and fair elections. These are known as citizens' arms. In the 2013 midterm polls, the COMELEC accredited 4 citizens' arms, namely NAMFREL, or National Citizens Movement for Free Elections, assigned to audit candidates' expenditures, the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, or PPCRV, tasked to conduct poll watching and voters' education, and the 2 newly recognized watchdogs, the One Vote Movement, composed of Protestant churches, and CCARE, or Citizens Coalition for ARMM Electoral Reforms, that will focus on election hotspots in Mindanao. But issues of impartiality and probity of these watchdogs have cropped up on occasion. In 2010, NAMFREL and PPCRV were rumored to be waging a silent war because of duplication of duties. The PPCRV asked the COMELEC to junk NAMFREL's petition for accreditation during the national elections. Recently, Archbishop of Lipa, Ramon Arguelles, severed ties with the PPCRV, arguing that personal interests and questionable reputation hounded the said watchdog. He afterwards unsuccessfully asked the COMELEC to accredit his archdiocese instead. Amid clashes between watchdogs, their real purpose should not be forgotten. That is, to assist and to inform the voters as we pick our next leaders. Well, the 2013 midterm polls are shaping up to be an exciting one. I'm Nancy Irlanda, and this is Elections 2013. Tonight, we talk about the Commission on Elections accredited citizens' arms, also known as election watchdogs, and they are here with us tonight from the National Citizens Movement for Free Elections, or NAMFREL, spokesperson Damaso Dami Magbual. We also have the president of One Vote Movement, Reverend Jojo Gonzalez, and the convener of Contradaya. He is also the director of the Labor Ministry of the Diocese of Imus, Cavite. He is Father Joe Dizon. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. I should have said at least most of the election watchdogs are here. CK is not with us, and later on in the show, PPCRV will be joining us. Dami, the first question to you, nothing about your age, but just that NAMFREL, of course, has been with us as a citizen's arm for the longest time. You've been in existence even before the 1986 SNAP elections, but let's use the 1986 SNAP elections as our basis. How do you view life being a citizen's arm before and after automation? You've been through manual elections, now we're going on our second automated elections. What's the diff?
There are advantages for both, no? As far as the manual count is concerned, I think there is greater transparency of the count. Number 2, I mean the part of the automation, there is less transparency in the count.
Okay, there lies the irony. Of course, that's not what is meant to happen, right?
Yes. In fact, it's not only transparency of the count, of the entire process for that matter, because unlike the manual count, you can really scrutinize every activity of the COMELEC from the time they print the ballot till the time they proclaim the winners. But in an automation, there are restrictions, you might say. Who may review the source code, for instance? In fact, we don't even know if there is a source code to be reviewed. What about all those hash codes? So many things that a citizen's arm cannot possibly look into. I'll cite the latest case. Testing of machines. We get a letter that we can observe. Then the day before, we were told that, no, you cannot observe because that is internal, you know. You know, transparency is the hallmark of a credible election. There are many reasons I give, but it's always better to err on the side of transparency. So the biggest difference, I think, here is it's less transparent now. Did
you have any recourse to go to another authority in order to contest the COMELEC's barring you from seeing or looking into these key stages in the process?
Well, the IT community, they got a ruling from the Supreme Court that it should be made available for them for review for the 2010, but it's never allowed them yet. You see that? So, do we have any recourse? The law is there that it shall be available to political parties, to the dominant opposition party, to an independent group, to civil society. But I think Coco Pimentel have been asking the COMELEC to allow his group to check the source code, but they were not allowed yet.
All right, Reverend Jojo, how effective do you think one vote can do its job, given the context provided to us by Dami?
You know, one thing that we said that in this election we will put CCTV in all precincts. Sabi ano yun? No, it's concern Christians against tampering of votes. I think with the social media now, with the cameras of cell phones and everything, I think yes, if everybody gets involved, we can do something.
All right, your group is religious, but not necessarily Catholic. It's mostly Protestant. I mean, it's multi-sectoral when it comes to its religious nature. But is it fair to say that it is only now that you've come together in order to form a citizens' arm? Of course, you've been around since 2010, but that's, of course, relatively recent.
Yeah, but, you know, sometimes with the corruption and the leaders that we choose, we put this up so that we can get involved, you know? So that we cannot just say that, oh, you're the religious group, don't get involved. It's like on a Sunday we carry our cross, but from Monday to Saturday they double cross. So it's better really to get involved, even this is governance, especially politics.
All right. Father Joe, we started out this discussion talking about before and after. Let's talk about another before and after, which is before there wasn't this explosion of new media and social media. Is it going to be easier to do our jobs? Clearly people will say yes, but in your experience, how has social media helped you to perform your role?
Well, we can easily communicate to people what we think about the election, no? What we think about how the COMELEC is performing. Kasi our difference from the other watchdog, hindi kami accredited, and we are not asking for that. Kasi ang binabantayan namin, yung tingin namin sa karanasan natin, ang dadaya sa eleksyon, yung COMELEC. Kaya sila yung aming binabantayan kung ginagawa nila yung tungkulin nila o hindi.
What are your restrictions being not accredited?
Nothing. We can be very creative and help for us to pursue our goal. For example, the way COMELEC has, under the Brillantes leadership, about the PCOS, ang tingin namin, failure ang preparation ng COMELEC. And COMELEC is not ready to give us an election that can be trusted. And that is yung plan.
You're totally not convinced that the mock elections were in any way...
It's a mockery of mock, no? Kasi ang nangyayari doon, some of our people have watched that mock election. At nakita namin yung mga PCOS machine na hindi natatransmit, mga PCOS machine na hindi bumabasa. Ang sabi ni Chairman Brillantes, minor glitches. My gosh, how can that be minor? That's precisely why we have the PCOS, to transmit the result and to read the ballots. If the PCOS cannot perform that, that is no minor.
And there's absolutely...
may I just say something about the accreditation? Because the only advantage of accreditation is, one, you get an official copy. Two, you're able to enter. Otherwise, you can do anything and everything you want to do to further promote good and clean elections, for instance. Now, in relation to the mock elections, well, in the first place, there was no mock election. Because a mock election must simulate what actually happens on election day. With 50 voters, that's not a mock election, you see. You have to go through the demographics of who should vote at the same day, the processes and procedures as exactly. Now, we were in 17 precincts. 4 of the 17 precincts, the PCOS it rejected ballot, it just stopped working, or it jumped ballots. Now, 2 were delayed by more than 2 hours for transmission. 4 totally failed to transmit, one of which is in Metro Manila. Now, if you have failure of transmission in Metro Manila, what do you expect in Tawi-Tawi or in Apari?
Is there a single glitch that was observed in 2010 that has been addressed successfully for these elections?
Actually, that is our disappointment with COMELEC. For the 2010 election, we said there are around 20 to 30 vulnerabilities yung automated election. And when Brillantes assumed the chairmanship, he promised that he would address this. And so far, nothing has been addressed successfully. For example, yung usapin ng digital signature, that was removed in 2010. Now, digital signature by the teachers will ensure that the count that is coming from that machine is really from that machine. Now, it is Smartmatics that will provide the digital signature. Secondly, the ultraviolet rays. That was again disabled in 2010.
It should be built in, Father. It should be built in the machine.
And the purpose of the ultraviolet is to check whether the ballot that will be used is the original ballot, not fake. And then the third is for the voters, no, to be able to check na yung kanyang pinasok na balota, ang binasa, yung binoto niya is not other way. Yun, no?
Okay.
Eh ngayon, nangyari, 2010, at maging ngayon, pag pinasok mo, congratulations. Kaya kung candidate ka, matutuwa ka.
So since we're talking about specific...
That's a case of lack of transparency.
Yeah.
Because the original intent of the law, I think, provides that there should be some sort of a receipt. Just like when you go to an ATM,
a validation.
Yes.
Okay.
And then put it in the machine, in a ballot box, separate box, which you could use for purposes of protest later.
Okay, they're telling us we have to go to a gap, but just very quickly, anyone can answer this. One problem that has been cited is the ballot is in itself very long. And apparently, the machine is having difficulty reading any paper that has any creases or folds. So that in itself is going to pose difficulty, because how do you write on those students' chairs with just that small table without soiling the ballot in such a way that you crease it or you fold it?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, that's the difficulty with our automated election. It only addresses the speed of the transmission of results. Pero the transparency of the election, no, the genuineness of the process have never been addressed.
All right.
For example, yung ballots.
And the ballot that you mentioned, no? Joe Concepcion had made suggestions long before, I think, where you have long ballots or so many names. There should, and what's wrong with having 2 or 3 ballots? In Mexico, they can have as many as 5. In Indonesia, they use 3 ballots.
It doesn't have to be one continuous form.
It doesn't have to be.
All right, we're going to leave our discussion on that. Just for now, we're going to go to a break. We're going to get back to that. After the break, we're going to talk about election watchdogs and, of course, automated elections. Stay tuned. This is Elections 2013. Welcome back. You're watching Elections 2013. We're still talking about citizens' arms, also known as election watchdogs. Joining the discussion via phone patch now is Ana de Villa Singson. She's Communications Director of the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, or PPCRV. Ana, hi. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us.
All right, PPCRV in the news lately. How would you describe your relationship now with the CBCP, which has had something not very favorable to say about the leadership of the PPCRV?
There is no change in our relationship in CBCP, and there's no change in the mandate of CBCP for PPCRV. The mandate stays the same. We continue to be the citizens' arm of CBCP, with the exception of Lipa, because Bishop Arguelles and the Archdiocese of Lipa has decided that they want to do election poll watching on their own. But
all right,
CBCP in general has given a statement that there's no change. There's no change to our mandate.
All right, you're going on record to be very clear that the Lipa case and Archbishop Ramon Arguelles is indeed an isolated case.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, one of the things that they're criticizing the PPCRV for, of course, is that their impression that the PPCRV, I'm talking about Lipa here, that the PPCRV is close to the COMELEC and has agreed with the COMELEC on certain decisions that they find objectionable. One of these would be, I believe, the inability to secure, for the Citizens Arms to secure a copy, a fourth copy of the election returns. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. Well, that was the reason he gave to us. He didn't say that in the press, but he did write it in a personal letter to us. He said that the reason, what happens because PPCRV is the only citizen's arm that is given number copies of the ER printed prior to the transmission. But PPCRV is also given another copy of the ERs printed after transmission. Now, the one prior to the transmission is actually sealed when it is given to us by COMELEC, and it is sent to our command center here because it is the one that is manually encoded for the unofficial parallel count. I believe that the contention of, or the concern rather, of Lipa was that, okay, it would be given sealed, it would be sent to Manila, and they wouldn't even have a chance to see it, which we find a little bit perhaps strange because it was exactly the same situation in 2010. And the reason that it is sealed is not because we asked for it to be sealed, but it's a COMELEC ruling that is given to us sealed, and because we want to make sure that the data that we use for the manually encoded unofficial parallel count is untampered with. Once we open that, once that sealed envelope is opened, what guarantee do the citizens have that we're actually giving them clean data? Not only that, if they want access and they want a visual of the fourth copy, they can actually see it because it's posted in the walls for 48 hours of the precinct, so they can actually access that. On top of which, they have one of the copies. It remains with them. One of the post-transmission copies of the ER actually remains with them. But whatever, we respect the decision of Archbishop Arguelles and Lipa, and we are happy that they still that they want to continue in their objective of still watching the polls there.
All right, we've been specific about the Lipa case, but on broader general terms, what is your answer to those who say that perhaps you're more lenient in the sense that you are supportive of some of the things that the COMELEC insists on pushing, and at one point, Goyo Larrazabal, who is a former COMELEC commissioner, was your vice chairman?
Okay, in terms of saying that, you know, a lot of them are saying that there's a certain leniency or tendency towards COMELEC. I believe the best thing to decide this is to look at the track record. If you look at 2010, it was PPCRV who exposed the COMELEC overpricing of the ballot secrecy folder. That was us. It was us also who exposed that there were 800,000 zombie voters in Davao. That was PPCRV. And what people don't see, because we're not like, we don't like parading and telling the whole world about the things that we do. But what they don't know is this issue about Dominion. Even before anybody spoke about it, in this November of this year, we already asked for an embanked meeting because we were sharing our deep concerns about Dominion even earlier than anyone ever did. The only problem is we don't like advertising that. We don't feel that we have to, because we feel that all we have to do is our jobs.
All right, Anna, stay with us on the line as I go back to the gentleman here joining us in the studio. Your view on that particular case about the election returns, the sealed one, differentiated from the one after transmission, because the sealed one is before transmission. There's another election return after transmission.
Well, in the manual, you always seal it. I don't know, with the, we were not accredited in 2010. I don't know the rules of the game at the time, no? So I don't see anything wrong there, though.
All right. Reverend Jojo, let's talk about the separation of the church and the state here. Clearly, your group is a religious representation. Father Jojo's, of course, also. Now, a lot of the Catholics also support. Is there any encroachment in the separation of church and state with what the Citizens Arms are doing?
Well, you cannot separate the body, soul, and the spirit. So, because of that, most of our members before don't get involved even in politics. Now, because of what we have said, that we advocate, we educate, now we participate. So we have really to get involved.
All right. Father Joe,
Well,
clearly the Catholic Church has made it clear that they do not want to support candidates who are pro-RH. Isn't that in itself encroaching on impartiality?
You know, it's not the Catholic Church. It's one diocese or two dioceses. No? Well, personally, I won't go that far. No? But they have done that and they have the right. No? But as far as the Church is concerned, being involved in politics, I think we must realize that as far as the Catholic Church is concerned, the retired Pope Benedict XVI made it very clear that politics is the just ordering of society. And in that task, the Church should be involved, particularly the lay, and that is the ministry they accepted from the Lord. So electoral process is part of the ordering of society. So there is nothing wrong for the membership of the Church, particularly the lay, to be actively involved, even in partisan politics.
All right, Father
I
Joe,
think the difference only is on the leadership. The leadership should provide the guidelines, the framework, no, how to properly be engaged on that.
all right, Father Joe, if I may, is there any point where you think the Church could be crossing any lines?
Well, I think you asked the question about the separation of the Church and state. I think that's a very good provision of the Constitution after our experience with the Spaniards and things like that. But we must realize that provision is principally addressed to the state. It's not addressed to the Church. That means the state should never, in honor, favor any church, no? For that matter. Now, as far as occasion for the Church to go beyond that, well, there are some. No, you have priests running for elections, no, which is actually not proper for us. The consequence for priests who are running for partisan elections, they are asked to leave. No?
Again, so many interpretations. Anna, let's go back to you on the line. Parish, pastoral, I mean, those are very religious terms. What's your view on citizens' arms, perhaps, and its impact on the separation of church and state? Anna,
you know,
you still there?
I think it's the first time that we're actually having to discuss such the impact between religious groups and church and state with reference to politics. So I think it's new ground for everybody, to be honest, because it's the first time there's been a very divisive issue such as RH law, wherein there are very different perspectives of the church and of the state. Okay.
So you think it's a fair question for me to have asked earlier that certain sectors of the Catholic Church are clearly against candidates who are pro-RH, therefore there might be some impact on that, on the impression of impartiality?
Well, PPCRB in itself is a lay movement, but it is a child of the church and a sister of the church. It's an arm of the church, but a lay movement on its own. And for us to be effective, and I think the reason we've lasted ever since 1991 is precisely because we are non-partisan. We allow people to make their own decisions. We allow people, it's free will after all. We never impose that on anyone, but we ourselves, we remain partisan, non-partisan. We have to be.
All right. Dami of the NAMFREL has made it clear that it's not just being a watchdog during the actual process of voting at the polls on election day, but it was all the way back to the whole adoption of the automated system of voting. What is your view on that the Cablelink has not been transparent and this whole system since 2010 has not been improved? Therefore, all the glitches that were prevalent in 2010, none of that is going to change in the 2013 midterm elections.
There are things I agree with there in the sense that there's no perfect system, in the sense that there are many things that can be improved. Yes, I agree with that completely. To say that there is no improvement, I think is rather unfair. We were there also in 2010, and when we did the unofficial parallel count there, we actually saw 72 discrepancies between the transmitted ERs and the manually encoded ERs. What is perhaps not known in the general public is that these differences were actually given to Cablelink with very strong recommendations from PPCRB, and I was very happy to see. In fact, I was a bit concerned. I thought, hey, there's no action, they're not responding. But when I saw the new GIs and the new processes, they had responded to each and every concern of ours vis-a-vis those discrepancies that we discovered. So to say there's no improvement, I think is not very fair. Now, to say that a lot of improvement is necessary, yes. There are many things that can still be improved here. But given the imperfection of any system, we have to live with that and try to make sure that within the imperfection of whatever system we have to make sure that we try to make the best out of the situation, be as vigilant as possible. And I agree fully that you have to be there from cradle to grave, and we have been. We have been there from cradle to grave. What is also not known to the public is that the source code review is going on now. And we are the only citizens arm that is actually accredited for the source code review. We're the only citizens arm that has applied for accreditation of the source code review. So we are there from cradle to grave.
Okay, Dambi, let me ask you, why hasn't the NAMFREL been accredited to look into this source code issue?
No, we never asked for that.
It wasn't important for you? You've stressed the importance
No. It was the IT community that asked for it. But the Cablelink said there's nothing to review yet.
There's no source
What
code.
will you review? There's nothing to review.
All right, tell us about the accreditation process. Probity, impartiality, those are very lofty words. How did you prove that you had all of those? What was the accreditation process? 2010 you weren't accredited, now you are. What changed?
What changed? I think they liked the face of the chairman this time and they did not like it the last time. Well, to be very honest, to be serious, no? Last time they gave us 3 reasons, all very flimsy. First, they said we already accredited 1, that was PPCRB. But they've always accredited 2 or more in the past. That cannot be an excuse. 2, they said that they saw Mr. Quisha in a rally of former government finance officers denouncing the government. No, that's not partisanship. They were there because they were denouncing corruption in government. If you denounce corruption in government, that is good citizenship. It's not partisanship. 3, they said that Mr. Concepcion called Joseph Estrada corrupt in 2000. We cannot recall that. But there were 7 of the presidential candidates who even appealed to Comelec to accredit us, and Erab was one of them. So you see, they just did not like the face of NAMFREL at that time, because we call it as we see it.
All right, Reverend Jojo. They say too many cooks spoil the broth. There are so many citizens' arms and election watchdogs. Why can't we have just one super body? Can't that happen? Does everyone have different...
Well, we've always been one since 1984.
You
there
had,
was only
yes.
one.
Yeah, but one thing now, it's good that they have other citizens' arm. It's like a good reminder that yung mga teachings ng araw, we'll just do what is right and what is wrong.
Well,
Yun ang guiding principle natin eh. Kasi ngayon nagiging what is legal and illegal. So it's good that we have different citizens' arm, so everybody can participate.
All right, Father Joy.
Well, as I said at the beginning, the difference of Contra Daya to other watchdogs is that we are watching Comelec if Comelec is doing its job. And Comelec has no reason to complain if we criticize them, because they are being paid by the Filipino people to do their job. We only criticize them if they do not do their job.
All right, Father Joe, I'll give you the last word. I'll ask you the last question. None of the gentlemen here agree that the Smartmatic PICO system worked ideally in 2010, and you don't expect it to work well 2013. Does that mean that you don't believe in the integrity of the results in 2010?
No, that's not the point, no? As far as the results of the 2010, I think the saving grace for that is that what people wanted was the one proclaimed, Pinoy, no? For that. But how is that in the lower level? Now it's appearing, no? There's so many complaints about the beginning.
That's correct.
And precisely that is why we were suggesting that one thing that Comelec should do in the automation, there must be a way of a paper trail in the precinct level, so that if there is a protest, there is a way to protest. That is the difficulty of the many local officials then. First, if you want to have a protest, you pay for a lawyer. Now with the automated, you pay for an IT, no? And the third thing is there's no paper trail at the beginning.
All right, Father Joe.
So i-add ko lang, no,
Yes.
yung Comelec has now have PICO's machine demonstration in different areas.
They had it also in 2010.
Yeah, pero ngayon nasa SM City, Glorieta, so I think there's time to check the PICO's machine and the demo.
But maybe no
What
time to have the
final
receipt system that you're after. Okay, final word, because we're telling us we have to wrap up.
The results of 2010 are your questioning. You cannot possibly say, well, I agree with Father, it conformed to what the people were expecting at the national level. And the differences were so high.
All right.
You see that. But they have not released the results of the random manual audit, which is supposed to be a test on the integrity of the machines. Mahar Mahas have been asking for it for almost 3 years now. I wrote the Cablelink 2 weeks ago. I didn't get a response.
All right. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it at that. Hopefully, another discussion for all the points that you raised. Thank you so much to our guest, spokesperson of the National Citizens Movement for Free Elections, or NAMFREL, Dami Magbua, Reverend Jojo Gonzalez, president of One Vote Movement, and convener of Contradaya, director of Labor Ministry of the Diocese of Imus Cavite, Father Joe Dizon, and also Ana De Villa Singson, communications director of the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, or PPCRV. Thank you to all.